Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new edition of Getting Color right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I am Virtue, being joined by the man himself, former WCW Hardcore Champion. Should be current, but hey, WCW is no longer here, but you were a part of the greatness that once was 20 years ago. Big Vito LaGrasso, how's it going, man?
How's everything? How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to Getting Color. I'm glad you're back for another action-packed show. We got a lot of topics to cover. We got a good time coming. I hope everybody's being safe. Virtue, why don't you kick it off and start with our first topic of the evening?
And I just reminded myself on that intro for you what that topic was. I couldn't remember before we went on the air. David Arquette, 20-year anniversary of being WCW champion.
Let's start it off. Go ahead.
So 20 years ago, he was booked. He became the WCW champion by pinning Eric Bischoff. It was one of those weird finishes where Jarrett was in there with DDP, and of course they awarded the title to David Arquette, who pinned Bischoff. So it's not like he pinned a wrestler. But I mean, wasn't this the same time, Vito? He gets a lot of heat for this. Russo gets a lot of heat for this. And David Arquette, 20 years later, well, 18 years later, because it's been a couple of years now, he became an independent professional wrestler. Okay. Right. Why does this get so much heat? WCW needed to do something because at that point in time, WWE was kicking their ass and they needed a spark for people to talk about. Wasn't Ready to Rumble a Hollywood movie at the movie theater out right around this time too, starring David Arquette? And if I remember correctly, Russo said that their goal was to get this in the papers, and I think the USA Today picked it up, and celebrities were talking about it. So if people want to bitch about a celebrity winning the title, and it was a very short reign, he didn't pin a worker, he pinned Bischoff. You were there. What's your take on this situation 20 years later? Every time I see it, I love it. David Arquette's awesome. I met him. I saw him at WrestleMania before, sitting in the same row as him. Dude, I love the Scream movies. Take it away on the 20-year anniversary of Mr. David Arquette, WCW World Champion.
Well, when he came walking down the aisle, everybody was in shock because I believe he got beat up before.
Yep.
And what people forget is he entered the ring and he speared Jeff Jarrett. For somebody who didn't know how to work and know how to throw a spear, it was a pretty good spear and a great bump by Jarrett, right?
Was it Jarrett? Because my memory, or was it Bischoff?
No, he speared Jarrett to get him out of the way because Bischoff was down.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
DDP went to kiss his wife, if you remember. As he was kissing his wife, Arquette came in, speared Jarrett, covered Bischoff. DDP turns around and he's champion. So that's what happened. Shock value at its best. Nobody liked it in the back because he was not a professional wrestler. But you talk about shock value, getting people to talk about it. They talk about it 20 years later. And what did the WWE do? They gave a title to a guy named Gronkowski.
Yes.
And now Gronkowski has left the promotion, went back to football. Oh, I'll just defend it at a football game and hopefully somebody will pin me. And they blew it off.
Yep. Now, so yeah, Arquette did pin Bischoff, though. That's what, when I was saying he didn't pin a worker, he pinned Bischoff. So we're talking about it 20 years later. And here's the thing. Gronk, we know he didn't train. I mean, he might have got in there and ran the ropes and did a couple of things, but he's clearly, you could just tell by his ring entrance, this guy is not a worker. 20 years later, we can say David Arquette is a trained professional wrestler and now has a history of matches on the indies that aren't so bad. And it's just, where are all those haters now? Now that David Arquette has really become an indie darling, where are those haters 20 years later? Oh, it's a bad idea putting the title on him back then when they were trying to do something to get a buzz, and they did.
They're still blaming Russo for everything that happened in wrestling. That's where they are. I mean, honestly, truly, when you think about it, they're all still blaming Russo for today's falls, and it's 20 years later. Let it go. It's a part of history. It's wrestling history. I was there for history. Guys, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, when you're still talking about something that somebody wrote and produced, it couldn't have been that bad.
That's true. And the fact is, he became a professional wrestler, and you know the Scream series, Eight-Legged Freaks, Ready to Rumble. I mean, dude, the documentary he has about being an indie wrestler and how that burned him all those years to get the fans' respect. Great story. And anybody that gets pissy about it, boo hoo 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 hoo. Speaking of
Exactly.
Gronk, did you not say this guy was coming back and he was going to be Brady's tight end last episode?
I said it. I said it. I documented it. I have it on video.
Yep.
I said he is coming back. He's going to wind up in Tampa Bay. Sure enough, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, he's back in Tampa Bay for, I think, a 6th-round draft pick because he held the Patriots up hostage. They would have had to pay him $10 million. They didn't have the cap space. And they said, okay, go ahead, because we can't use you and we like to keep you. The next guy to leave is Edelman. You heard it here. Edelman will be traded. I don't know where. I'd like to see him go to the Jets.
Jets. So, yeah, I think the Patriots traded Gronk and a 7th rounder for a 4th rounder, something very close to that.
Yeah.
So they basically, but they traded him to Brady. I mean, Brady's coming back. He's going to have Godwin, who became a big star receiver last year. Evans has been good. Now you got Gronk, and Gronk with a year of rest. Watch out. Again, they might have a lot of pressure on him, Vito. You know how sometimes these perfect storms of players doesn't pan out, but, you know, it is Tom Brady. He's a veteran, and they got a good coach, Bruce Arians. I'm not a Buccaneers fan, but a lot of people hate Brady. I like watching Brady make them shut up, man.
Well, what everybody's forgetting is they still have O.J. Howard, who is a great tight end himself. He didn't have
tight end set.
Yeah, so they got a 2 tight end set. So they actually have 4 receivers on the line, and they have 2 people blocking for Brady. Plus, Tampa Bay got a couple of offensive linemen during the draft. I think Brady's going to go back to the old Brady, and he's going to pick. He's got weapons. The only thing they're missing is an A1 plus running back. That's it.
Yeah, and you never know with Brady there in that system, the way they're going to do it. Maybe that Ronald Jones or whoever their one main running back was, maybe he busts out this year, you know, or they get somebody, who knows. I'm surprised they didn't get Gurley when the Rams cut him. I think he went to the Falcons. But like I thought for sure Brady was going to go to the Bucs, and then all these other stars were going to go there to make this perfect storm. But we got to wait and see, Vito.
The guy the Jets signed up, the Pervman, the receiver they signed, wasn't he on the Bucs? Wasn't he the 3rd receiver on the Bucs?
Was it Perryman?
Perryman, yeah.
Perryman, I think so.
So, okay, so guys, the Jets took the 3rd best receiver on the Bucs. Now he's their number 1 receiver, or number 2 with the Jets draft pick, because they got Mims, which I think it'll be good. They lost Robbie Anderson, but you know, filling in Gronk to take Perryman's place with O.J. Howard, you actually have 4 pretty good receivers and big receivers. Those guys are not small guys. I think Gronk still goes about 6'4", 6'5". I think O.J. Howard is about 6'3", 6'4". And the 2 guys on the Mike Evans and the other guy are 6'5", 6'6". That's some big receivers to throw to.
Yep, that's what Brady wanted. That's what Brady got. Now, what do you think is going to happen with this 24/7 title? Are they going to get rid of this thing? I know you've had words about this title.
Hated it from day one.
Should it disappear? Are they going to make it disappear, or are they going to let him stay the champ so he can wear it, in pregame, and who knows? Just to let him advertise WWE. What do you think WWE is going to do, and what the Buccaneers will allow with that?
I think that it's going to go and be with Brady. Be with Gronkowski. I don't think they're going to make a joke of the Bucs, because the Bucs don't want any interruptions during the season for any nonsense with the WWE. I think he's going to have it for the season. I could be wrong, but if I was the WWE, I'd try to get away from that 24 title, because it made everybody look stupid. And besides, when they did their release, they got rid of all the guys who were chasing the title. So who are you going to have chasing the 24/7 title now?
Dude, what? Now, he doesn't need – people know he's still the 24/7 champion because they never address it. Could you see touchdown celebrations and like Godwin pins him, and they keep jostling it back and forth and taking the penalty without the oh, dude, I don't know, man. But there's touchdown celebrations there because they do it anyway. They dance anyway and get penalized, right?
But you're talking about mixing a professional football game where there's money, where it's a game you're trying to win, with something that's make-believe and has nothing to do with football. Remember, these guys are playing for a Super Bowl. These guys are all in this year. This is the year Tampa Bay, it's either, you make it with the best of the best, or you guys really do suck.
And they do have a small window because Brady is 43.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to be doing anything. If anything, they'll get rid of it in preseason, in a behind the scenes, where they roll them up and then that's it, and on with the regular season. I don't see them going into the season doing it on national TV to plug the WWE 24/7 title. I don't see it.
But if there is that one touchdown celebration revolving wrestling, I'm going to have to retweet that animated clip. But we'll see what happens. But I can't wait. We need football. We need sports, Vito. God, even if they got to do these NBA playoffs in empty arenas and Major League, something, we got to crack code, man.
Now, did you hear about Major League Baseball coming back? And here's the thing that gets guys. They are allowing workouts in the cities that are not locked down. What does that say for New York? What does that say for the Mets, the Yankees, and other places that are locked down? What does that say for the NBA Basketball Association, where the Knicks and Nets are in New York? Okay?
They got to play elsewhere?
They got to practice somewhere. Their practice facility is in Tarrytown. How are they supposed to practice? How are they supposed to get together? And I'm sure there are other cities that are still locked down. How do they do this?
God, that's a good question. And they better figure something out because I want some sports back. But I do want people to stay safe. And who knows where these cities are severely locked down, if these teams can go another state away in a college facility, wherever. I don't know. It would be nice if they can get these logistics to work out, Vito. Just give us some sports. I mean, we had the Michael Jordan documentary. I don't know if you caught that. We're getting stuff like that, but we need new sports live. I know what's happened in the past. We've all watched the great stuff that's already happened. We need new.
But I think that ESPN, if anybody turns it on in the morning, I think they've been doing a good job of keeping things up to date with everything, and I enjoy watching it at some kind of sports. And then if you watch The Jump or First Take, they are covering sports and they are doing something. So it's not like you're left with, you just don't have no live game coverage to watch on Sunday. You don't have no basketball to watch during the week on Thursdays and Tuesdays. So, I mean, you're limited, but Sports Center and all the sports shows are still doing their best to keep everybody occupied.
And I think golf was doing it without fans. I think golf started back up, or they were really close. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But here's a touchy subject here because it's still kind of very early on this. But over the weekend, Velveteen Dream, Patrick Clark, was accused by some minors of sending Instagram stuff or nudes. And he immediately came out and denied it and claimed hack or some other people had access to these personal photos. It's touchy because in the way things work today, you don't really know. So it's like, I don't want to ever say you're automatically guilty to anybody. You are innocent until you are proven guilty. Okay. So I saw internet starting to talk about this, and I think it's too early to condemn Patrick Clark yet because we just don't know, at least when we're recording this, Vito. But what we can talk about is the comparison to what happened to Enzo Amore, who got fired. Now, we know they claim the reason Enzo got fired, he had a bunch of heat already from being a loudmouth in the locker room. He didn't tell WWE management what exactly might have been going on, and they were blindsided by it. So that was their reason to fire him. But here we are, and I'm not saying fire Velveteen Dream. You've got to let this play out. What's your comparisons with what we know right now from these two? Because I still feel Enzo got screwed because he's an entertaining guy. And guess what happened, Vito? Enzo didn't rape that girl.
No.
So I know you have to have some thoughts on this. Tread lightly, my friend.
I will say this. I hope for this young man's sake that this is an accusation and proven on his behalf, because I don't want to see anybody get in trouble. Okay? Now, if he did do it and they find him guilty, I'm not the judge and jury on this, but it's sad that this happens and you're approaching young girls. Now, if you, in today's world with all the social media, okay, they tell you be careful. They tell you don't take pictures, don't take video. You never know, it's very touchy situation. With the prestige you have of being a professional wrestler for the WWE and being in the spotlight on the NXT brand, for you to be accused of something like this is very discouraging, not for yourself, but for the business and the fans itself, because in the outlook of it, how do I let my kids go to something like this? How do I let them talk to the next professional wrestler? How do I go to another event? How do I support the company? I hope and pray that this is a total mistake and somebody played a bad joke on this young man and the WWE, and this goes away, and the WWE is proven innocent. This young man is proven innocent, NXT is proven innocent, and everybody goes away on the upswing. Now, for everybody who says that, Vito LaGrasso says negative things about the WWE, in this situation, I hope that the WWE skyrockets above this and they soar, and this guy goes to make $1 million and has a great career. And I don't want to see nobody get into any jams like this. Now, going to Enzo, what happened to him? Okay, he was a ball of controversy, but he was a ball of money.
Yes, he was. Top merch.
Hottest thing on TV, the guy you wanted to see, the guy who was keeping 205 alive.
And let me cut you off real quick. When he was the 205 Live champ, they were actually entertaining house show circuits with 205 Live guys because he was drawing. Now, is 205 Live even a show anymore?
No.
The power of a guy that can draw. And Enzo did that.
But because he was accused, okay, and made an accusation, the WWE jumped the gun and said, you're fired. Instead of saying, listen, we're going to put you on ice. We're going to put you on sabbatical, a furlough. We're going to take you off TV until the investigation is proven otherwise. They could have did it a little easier. Yeah. Instead, they fired him, okay, and then the outcome was he was proven guilty. He didn't do anything. So you're playing with fire when it comes to accusations of rape, sending photos to minors, and doing stuff like that, because being a father or an uncle or having somebody who's close to you and they're a young girl and you're getting, penis pictures, it's not very nice, especially when it comes from a grown man.
Now, this is an era of social media where it's easy to do that kind of stuff, right? Over the years in the wrestling business, there's been some people that have done some cynical things, I'm sure of it. And I don't know how much privy of any of that information you are to. Is there anything in the past, back before social media, in the wrestling business? We've heard rumors of what Mae Young did, prostituted out her trainees, rumors of Savage and Stephanie. Is there anything, and none of this necessarily holds merit if you weren't there and you don't know, anything in the past that was just like, could have been, if their social media existed back then, it would have been like, holy fuck, these were some bad people? Or is it all just hearsay from the days of past wrestling?
I could tell you this, okay? And I say this with the most sincerity and to the best of my ability to be as good as possible. There are a lot of accusations in the wrestling business in a lot of different places. Some were true, some were not true. And you know what? And social media was not as big as it was back 20 years ago. If you wanted to get a lady's attention and you wanted to find some females, it was easy to do if you were discreet and a gentleman about it, and you could have your fun on the QT, as long as you say if you'd like to have some adult fun, adult activity, would you like to have a good time? There was a way to approach things without photos and texts and disturbing messages and like stuff like that. You could do it a little classy, okay? Being that we're in a different era now where social media and digital and cameras and photos and verbiage, just like in the Hulk Hogan saga, where there was a tape and he said the N word and he did this and he did that and everybody scrutinized the man, okay? You saw Hulk Hogan's career disappear and they got rid of him. And then slowly he came back 3 years later, $31 million richer, but it sabotaged his career of Hulk Hogan, the American hero.
Yeah, I mean, he'll always be a racist in certain people's eyes now because he was on video saying that word. And I mean, I don't know. Do you know of multiple proofs of Hogan besides that one instance of being a racist? Or that's the only one I've ever heard. And so I guess people can't ever make a mistake anymore. You do one thing and that changes who you are. And again, I'm a white guy. You're a white guy.
Let me tell you something. In the wrestling business, okay, when you're in the back with the boys, okay, there is no white and black and this and that. You all work together. You're all brothers. There's a code. You're like you're in the Marine Corps. You stand by your brother. You look after your brother. You take care of your brother. Doesn't matter your what. I've been friends with Booker T and Stevie Ray since 1991, 92. I'm sorry. You know, I'm friends with Japan. I'm friends with Ernest the Cat Miller. I'm friends with Norman Smiley. I'm friends with Devon. Me and Devon were in the same class. There was never a time where I looked at somebody, whether I liked them or didn't like them, and said, hey, you're such and such. You know, you always got along, and it wasn't white or black. If you needed a ride, hey, brother, come on, man, get in the car. You needed a room? Bro, why are you sleeping in your car? Come on in. You know what I mean? It's not like that. You know what I mean? Hulk Hogan, I met in 1991 in the WWF, bigger than life, you know, shaking everybody's hand. You know, does everybody have beefs with people who are trying to inch their way up the ladder? Of course they do. But when it came to white and black, it just wasn't there with the boys. Now, if you talk about management, okay, and everybody's heard the story of Ron Simmons being the first black heavyweight champion, which is a great honor, right? Yep. Booker T and Booker T becoming world heavyweight champion in WCW when it pertained to Hogan and Jeff Jarrett and what the people wanted, and that it wasn't a black-white thing. It was just the two best wrestlers at the time, you know. Stevie Ray and Booker T being world tag team champions, you know. Devon Dudley being world tag team champion. The New Day, look at the New Day. How many 6-time world tag team champions?
Kofi finally won.
Kofi being a world champion. Mark Henry being a world champion. Yep. You talk about guys who have held the title, guys, and like this racist stuff. You're all brothers and sisters in this.
Lashley held titles as well.
Yeah, and you know what? There is no. And when it comes to saying you this and you that and you the other thing, you know, it never came out in any dressing room, and it never came out in anything. If you thought these things, you kept it to yourself and you did business. Now, I will tell you, in ECW, we were in North Carolina, and me, Balls Mahoney, New Jack were in the ring, and there was a white kid who came to get a tryout. He was a Southerner. He was a racist, and he's in the ring with New Jack. New Jack says, "Yeah, I'll give him a tryout. I'll wrestle." So we all looked at him. We all said, "You're gonna do a tryout?" "Yeah, I could wrestle, man. I know how to wrestle." Well, I laughed. I said, "Okay, I'm gonna sit here and watch." So they get in the ring, and the kid starts to be roughhousing New Jack, calls him the N-word. Now, this led into a fight in the ring where it was punches thrown. It wasn't done. And this guy had friends with him, and with me, Balls, Axel, New Jack, I go in the dressing room and I said, man, it wasn't, it didn't sit good with me.
Yeah.
And I like Jerome, and me and him are boys. It did, and I didn't like it because that's not wrestling to me. But the fight wasn't over. New Jack came in there, and he slapped this kid in the face, and they went at it again. And it was a big breakup where it was one side against the other, and we were all going. And there were white guys on New Jack's side, and this guy had all his redneck guys, and it was fight. You know what I mean? There's just certain things you don't do in wrestling, and you don't cross that line, no matter what the case. And if you do have a case of you not liking somebody, I mean, you work with them anyway, and you make the best of it. And sometimes the guys you hate are the guys you have the best matches with.
That's why it's called professional wrestling. And look, people, this is Getting Color with Big Vito LaGrasso, who was there. He had interactions with these people that we talk about. He knows this stuff. He's not just somebody that from a distance as a fan like me saying that. That's why I love having Vito and doing shows with him, because, dude, I'm going to take all this stuff. I'm not taking it lightly. You were there, and I'm glad having this discussion, because over on No DQ, when it's just, us guys over on No DQ without you there, that's why I got to bring you back. We're just giving our opinions from a distance, but you actually worked with these people. So I feel good now with some of my opinions I've had on these touchy subjects and topics after talking to you.
I got to tell you, people, in the one instance where I'm going to, if I like a match, like this is another thing, like on P Online, and like if I post on Facebook that I don't like something, and if I don't like something that the WWE does or doesn't do, and like there are some good things that they do. They should have kept the championship on Brock Lesnar and ran it till he's 105 years old until they found the next Brock Lesnar. But he's the only draw they got.
Dude,
but
that's a great segue.
In this instance, I hope that WWE proves everybody wrong. I hope this young man proves his innocence. I hope the WWE skyrockets off this and makes it a great thing and a great recovery, so this guy can go on and have a great career. I want the WWE to prove this wrong. I really do. I hope it does, because this is something we don't need in our society. The accusations and all this stuff, I just don't like it. And the racism stuff, guys, never was a part of Vito LaGrasso. It makes me feel disgusted.
Yeah. Dude, and when this happened with Enzo, too, I was like, well, okay, he could be guilty of this, in which case I'll address my thoughts on that if it's true.
Right.
Innocent until proven guilty. I'm not going to sit here and condemn Patrick Clark. He's innocent as far as I'm concerned. If something comes out and he did these things, well, we'll address that then. But people, sometimes when things like this happen, don't, talk about it, but like just kind of wait for the truth to come out, the facts, instead of being judge, jury, and executioner on Twitter. So,
exactly. And you're here on Getting Color, and we're giving him the benefit of the doubt, hoping he prevails and moves on from this and never has to deal with this ugly subject again. That's our view on this from Getting Color, Virtue, and Vito LaGrasso.
That's right. Thank you, Virtue. Now, we got some champions in the business right now at a time where ratings keep plummeting. Jon Moxley is the AEW World Champion. Drew McIntyre is the WWE Champion, beating Brock. I know you have a lot to say about that. And Braun Strowman is the Universal Champion. And ratings keep falling down and down and down in these empty arena atmospheres. What's your thoughts on this? Bad time for all these people to be champion, because they can't even get the crowd that was attending these live shows to cheer for them. What do you think here? Are they the culprits? Is it just a bad time with the pandemic?
The more I look at this, let's take Drew McIntyre.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I would say Drew McIntyre, they had to have somebody to groom the proper way for them to beat Brock. Okay. Being that this crisis has happened, it has hurt the guy's credibility, because he can't do it in front of a crowd. He's wrestling in dead empty houses. His matches, the ones he's had, have looked very plain, and there's no pizzazz to it. And people are like, blah, I don't want to see this. You know what I mean? There's nothing to him. I think that he picked the wrong time for him to be champion, and everybody complained about Brock Lesnar only being part-time and having the title. But when Brock Lesnar makes an appearance, ratings do go up. And if they paid Brock Lesnar enough money for him to come every week, I bet you the ratings would be 2.5 or 3 million.
Yep. And look, when he's there, when Roman was there, SmackDown was getting 2.5 plus. Okay. Without these guys there, and Raw, without these guys there, these two shows are dipping close to under 2 million now. I mean, it's
right.
There's 500,000 people not watching now. You can blame the pandemic. I don't know. AEW was drawing almost 1 million a week, beating NXT every week, 950,000. They're down to like 650. That's like 400,000 people.
Now
NXT's kind of stayed the same, but like there's loss of ratings here.
I think when you come to the next show is Braun Strowman and SmackDown, right? Braun Strowman's credibility in the wrestling business plummeted so much that him being champion is not going to enjoy anything, because you take him, he's a big monster. He shouldn't have been treated the way he's treated, but certain things didn't work his way. He didn't progress as they did. They put him in a different direction. Out of desperation, they slid him into that slot. He's a transition champion. They should never have taken the title off of The Fiend because the guy was on an upswing. He should have beat Goldberg. He should have beat Cena. There was your next money man, and then they bring him back down the pecking order.
Yep.
You don't understand the philosophy. Now, AEW, Jon Moxley, they needed another champion to beat Jericho because everybody loves Jericho. Jericho could have did the championship maybe for another few months, but he already had lackluster matches with certain young talent who were not ready for that caliber match, and you can only get so much of it. The rest of the card on AEW is flip, and and you just like, there's a reason Kenny Omega is a star in Japan, not here in the States, and everybody sees it. There's a reason why Cody Rhodes is successful here at AEW and was not in the WWE, because they give him the microphone and stick to do what he wants, not what he's told to do. As far as, Matt Hardy joining the AEW, okay, he gets to do his broken gimmick. They're North Carolina boys, from, over there in the Carolinas, the Hardy Boys and what's the tag team called? The
Bucks.
The Young Bucks. They're all Carolina boys. They all stick together. Carino, the Bucks, all them guys. They're all boys, right? So they all stick together. And, their ratings are at 600,000, and they get low. Jack Swagger is supposed to be this undefeatable sauce. He's supposed to be this shoot fighter. He lost to Jon Moxley. Not knocking Moxley at all. But they built him up to be this machine. He's supposed to be undefeated. How do you lose in your own match?
Yep.
Dustin Rhodes coming back, and he said, okay, I'm going to retire if I can't beat these guys. Using a finisher, and sticking with it, and Taz putting it over, trying to help the cause. Because sometimes with no direction, guys, if you go back to Wrestling 101, it works. Not this new concept that everybody wants to see because it's not going nowhere, and you only have a cult following. But when you have Taz at the helm, and he's calling it like you're supposed to, and if the guy sells the move like he's supposed to, and everybody does their job, wrestling does work again, like kayfabe. So, I mean, it's there for the taking, but everybody's deviating from what the formula is. And that's Wrestling 101.
Good points there. Now, with these champions, and these falling ratings, we are in a pandemic. They can't have fans in the arenas. What if and people, it's not going to happen because Tony Khan's such a money mark. He'll take his own savings and keep this thing afloat. But what if AEW went out of business? What if his dad said, you got to get out of this, you're losing money, let's focus on our football, our sports stuff? What could the fate of AEW be? Especially if things keep like it is lately. I mean, AEW was growing, Vito. Not growing, but a new company. And they need these live venues because that's the rowdy fans that kind of represent their product. Sure, they might only be getting 3, 5, 6,000 seat arenas or whatever, small college arenas, but like this is killing them. What if they went out of business? What would happen to some of these workers? Would any of them be invited back to WWE without getting buried, or would they all get buried, or would any of them not even be interested? Because you and I talked about this off camera. What do you think?
I think that there's maybe 2 or 3 guys who'd be invited to WWE. Chris Jericho might go back, but he'd call his own shots before they would try to bury him. Matt Hardy, I don't think would go back. I don't think they'd be interested, or they would have kept him. Cody Rhodes, I think they would sign and work the shit out of him and then bury the living crap out of him and make him look the fool.
Triple H would probably book him himself against him at Mania just to beat him.
Yeah, just to beat him. And everybody else on that bandwagon. But as far as anybody else going to the WWE, guys, if they were anything before, and everybody says, oh, I have contact. What's your goal when you break into business? Make it to the WWE. Yeah. What's your goal when you want to get there? Get a contract at the Fed. That still hasn't changed. And everybody can have a phone call and a conversation, but unless you go through the ritual, go to the tryouts, go to do this, yeah, I don't think I want to wrestle for the WWE. If it's the only game in town where you're wrestling, what are you doing? You ain't going to stay on the indies your whole life. I mean, if the Young Bucks are making the kind of cash flow they were saying, and they had merchandise and you were doing good, they're the exception to the rule.
But there's not many like that. That's a very niche. They can't preach to other up and coming indie wrestlers, hey, you can do this like us. They had to work hard and make the reputations and convince those fans that they are that good. Not every indie wrestler can even come close to doing that.
No. And then when you talk about guys who were stars in Japan coming over here, now you take AJ Styles and his boys, Gallows and Anderson. It was supposed to be a killer tag team. They beat up they retired the Dudleys, and you know what? It didn't help their career, and they were just like floating. And then they put them in a big match in WrestleMania. Not only did the Undertaker kill Gallows and Anderson, they killed AJ Styles. You haven't seen AJ Styles since, so you don't know his fate. And then when you talk about guys coming over, out of all the guys who were there, Moxley left because he couldn't take it no more. He didn't want to deal with it. I'm sure financially he is secure because he made money in the business. Does he have to wrestle for them? No, he'll go wrestle in Japan at his leisure. Yeah. Okay? And if he did go back, I don't know what his fate would be. You really don't know. So it's like, okay, these guys are in AEW. It's great for now. But if this place closes and it goes back everything to Vince, we're in a world of trouble. So you pray this stays open. You pray, because then everybody's going to bitch and moan and say, oh, we need the alternate. Well, the alternative flunked and didn't survive. So I guess what the garbage Vince is producing, as people say, he's producing garbage because he does have good content. They're going to be happy with what content he has then. So it's either feast or famine. You either like it or you don't. You become fickle. Fans have the opinion to cheer and boo. That's why they're fans.
And see, Vince always wants his sports entertainment soap opera. His attempt of it still, I mean, it's not as good as it used to be. But like he saw, indie fans like clamoring over Ring of Honor, New Japan. What did Vince McMahon do? He allowed Triple H to run this little thing called NXT to still appease those fans. So, like, people don't give Vince McMahon credit for that. Vince wouldn't have to do it. He could keep that just a closed performance center. He doesn't have to turn that into a little show to appease those style of wrestling fans, but he does because and again, for every, Vince McMahon has some bogus things that he does and always will do, but he still gets the business, right? I mean, as much as we can say he's out of touch, he still built the WWE global empire, right? I mean, some of his practices might not be ethical, but the fact is, wrestling's as big as it is today because of Vince McMahon. Maybe his
When-
father too.
When it comes to business, okay? Now, if you're doing things, like I always said this, and this is something I've said for years. When you have a business and you look at everybody's business who was folded, ECW with Paul Heyman folded, TNA with Jarrett folded, or he was out. The
WCW.
WCW with whoever was in charge at the last, it's Bischoff and Johnny Ace and those guys, they folded.
Lucha Underground had a small little cult following. It was more of a TV show than a wrestling company, but they're done.
But the way you look at it is, these guys had an agenda and had all these guys making inputs, right? But at Vince McMahon's way, even with Triple H and Stephanie and Shane and Linda and the people in it, it still comes down to what Vince says goes. It's done one way. That's why people who go from NXT up to SmackDown and Raw aren't as successful on the NXT level as they are in the big time, because Vince wants you to do it this way instead of that way. And you have to learn his way or you're going to make the highway.
Yep.
And that's the truth, guys. And as far as a businessman and saying, I want to do business like him, and you want to make, not as much make money, but you understand the psychology he has on how to run a business. We're going to run this ship this way. We're going to do this like the Marine Corps. You do it like this. And when there's a code red, you cut it off.
Yep. I mean, we are down to about 2 million people now. I mean, I mean, that's the WWE's ratings too. It's less than that for the alternate brands.
I got a question. I got a question for you.
Okay.
And this would be a good question. How long will it take before Vince McMahon, Triple H, Stephanie, Shane, and Linda call up Vince Russo and offer him a boatload of money, give him what he wants, and he takes over both shows?
As much as I would love to see that happen, I don't think it will, because for whatever reason, they just don't want to give Vince the credit for being one of the cogs in the wheel of the Attitude Era and how it helped WWE and saved Vince McMahon's job, or not job, company. I just don't think they're going to do it. What do you like? So I'm going to say it'll never happen.
How desperate? How
because they
desperate?
know, you know why it won't happen? Because they know if it did, he'd come aboard, the internet would find out through the dirt sheets, there would be some polarizing people that would wah. Well, guess what? They're all going to watch, right? Because they want to criticize it. But then you're going to have people like, holy shit, we got what we wanted back. And the ratings would go up a little bit again, maybe even to 3 million, maybe 3.5. I'm not saying they're going to get to Attitude Era numbers, but WWE doesn't want that to be proven that Vince Russo made a big difference to their television product. That's why it'll never happen, because they know if it did, they would all eat crow like, we really needed him all along, pal. Like, what do you think?
Everybody knows that me and Vince are boys and we're buddies and we talk. There's some things we talk about, some things we don't talk about no more. We have conversation about this, and this is true. And would he want to go back? He tells me no, because he couldn't deal with all the drama and all the bullshit, which I get. It has an emotional strain on his life. If he was left alone and he would be left to do what he wanted to do and do it his way, the way he knows, I bet you SmackDown and Raw would draw 2.5 and better each and every week. Everybody would be relevant, and the business would pick up.
I'd say 3. I'm confident enough to say 3 million or more, because he'd know he'd need the big stars on TV.
Now, I say 2.5. It's a fair number, because 2.5 is a high number for each show.
For today's standards,
For today's standards. I say it would be Vince's minimum at 2.5. Now, would I say it reached 3? Would I say it reached 3 on the other show? I think absolutely. Would he be at 2.5? Because if you look at the numbers of what he produced at WCW, at TNA, what did he produce? 2.53 million. So the proof is in the pudding. And even in the WWE EF era, right? What did he produce?
Oh, bigger than that. Like ridiculous.
A minimum of 2.5. So the track record says 2.5.
It's a good point.
You have brought in Heyman. You brought in Bischoff. You brought in Pritchard. You brought back Jim Ross. You brought Jerry Lawler back. You got the good old boys there. You got Jeff Jarrett in the house. You have all the agents who never worked for the WWE as wrestlers, but they're agents and creative. You have a lot of people who never wrestled in the business, and they're trying to be writers but don't know what they're writing.
And yes, that's a great point. Writers from Hollywood, from canceled soap operas. Vito, there used to be a dozen soap operas on TV. Now there's 4. And Vince wants all those writers where they lost all the shows. What did Vince do? He trained. You trained with him. He came in, at least attempted to know the wrestling business before he got to working for WWE. Do these writers do that today? No.
No, they just came on in. And it's funny because Vince Russo learned the business, and I broke Vince Russo in the business. And
by the way, before we get anybody saying, oh, this is just a Vince Russo praising contest, no. He's not perfect. He's made mistakes, right? Yeah. We're not going to be the guys that put him over, but admit he hasn't done bad things. We all have done things that were good and bad in our lives, that worked, that didn't work. So we're being as biased as we possibly, unbiased, okay? Now, when me and Vince were talking and he had a chance to go to a writer's job, Vince, put in the application. You got the credentials. We worked the Arena Club. Everybody forgets that we did the Arena Clubs back then at the Nassau Coliseum. We had a radio show. We built up our reputation to do something. Vince was the brains. He was doing stuff. He has a degree in writing from Indiana. He put it in. He got the job. He did the magazine. From the magazine, he learned the business. He came up with ideas because he was creative. Plus, he was a wrestling fan. He got to do these things and grow. And Vince said, hey, you got an open mind. Cornette was there. Jim Ross was there. Pritchard was there. Jim Ross. I mean, just about the who's who was everybody was there. And one by one, they got dismissed. And that's how Russo got to work one-on-one with Vince and do the show and make the Attitude Era and do everything great. You heard from Austin. You heard from The Rock. You heard from Jericho. You heard from Taz. You heard from these people. Vince Russo did do these great things in the WWE. I don't know why people are burying him. He got everybody on TV. He didn't waste anybody on that roster like the EC3s were wasted today and the Zack Ryders, and then they get cut. He made sure everybody had a purpose and it meant something.
So he goes from there. He gets the job at WCW. He goes in there. He gets the ratings up to 3.5. People break his balls. We went off. The people that went dropped down. It came back. It went up again. So, guys, I mean, when he went to TNA, Russo's here. Russo kept that ship afloat. And even when he was on double secret kayfabe, I'm writing the TV probation, that's when the shows went. As soon as everybody found out and they said, okay, we're having new writers, the show took a shit. So what does it tell you guys? That the guy knows what he's doing, but everybody buries him. Did he make mistakes while I was there? From a wrestling standpoint, from a wrestling guy, he did rub people the wrong way because he had his own ideas. The old herd didn't want to listen to the new guy on the block and take the rest.
He put the strap on himself too, or I don't know. But yeah, he's not perfect. I mean, we're not going to. Yeah.
I mean, the night that Hogan and him had that big shoot, it was me and Hogan in the dressing room. Hey, Vito, how you doing? Can I share a dressing room with you? Yep. Hulk, come on in. Hey. I had no idea what was happening. Hulk came back. I said, Hulk, are you okay? He says, yeah. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm just going to go home. I'll talk to you later. I went to Russo. I said, Russo, what did you do? I'm a wrestling guy. I'm one of the boys, right? But that's my buddy. So what did you do? I'm tired of that piece of shit, blah, 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 fucking that. I wanted the title. But the shock value, because here I am with Hulk and we're wrestlers, and I'm over here with my buddy, and then you're like, okay, your loyalty is with Vince, but you know what's right and wrong in wrestling.
Yeah.
You see David Arquette winning the title and had Big Vito getting his ass kicked every night and, doing the hardcore and doing all this stuff, wrestling every Tom, Dick, and Harry 5 nights a week. And then David Arquette throws a spear, and he's the world heavyweight champion. All right, it is what it is, You can't say nothing. It happened. Vince Russo wins the heavyweight title, trying to make money. But when he did it, the fans were watching. So you really can't. You can't bury the guy. And people, what do you watch today? You watch the old WCW stuff. And that's what pisses me off. Yeah, that old WCW stuff was good. Oh, really? But how come you all still bury Vince Russo today?
Well, there's still some people that have an agenda, and even if it was good, they're never going to admit it. They're going to throw him under the bus for everything. I'm not even going to mention their names because it's not worth it. But, they're losers.
I'm going to say something, okay? You have guys who have beef with Vince Russo, right? And they have their own agendas, okay? I have no beef with Jim Cornette, but Jim Cornette doesn't like Vince Russo. I don't have a beef with Bruce Pritchard, but Bruce Pritchard has his bones with Vince Russo. Pritchard, Cornette, Eric Bischoff. Bischoff. I have no bones with Eric Bischoff, but he's got beef with Russo. And there's a few others out there who have beef with Russo, but I don't have beef. Then when you look at this, and I come on Twitter and I go on Facebook and I come on this show, Get in Color, right? And I say, guys, it's 20 years ago. You're all over 50 years old. Drop the nonsense. It does not work. You're all talking about the same shit. It's monotonous and it stinks. Talk about new stuff. Talk about the new writers. Talk about the people who are blowing it today.
Yeah, great point. Exactly.
Pritchard got hired to go be the first one. Has he done anything? No. Bischoff, he went over there to get hired. Did he do anything? No. Did they bring back Jim Cornette? No. Did they bring back Jim Ross? No. Did I miss anybody?
There might have been some. You got all the important ones.
I got the important, but a lot of people these are the people who bury Vince all the time. And I'm not saying nothing bad against them. I'm just saying, looking at from what happened, and Russo did this, and Russo did that, Russo did the other thing. But on the flip side, what did you guys do for the WWE that made you so popular with them that you have better credentials than Vince Russo? Because when you do compare notes, I'm not an analytic guy. I'm not an analyst. I'm not anything. But when you talk numbers and I see this number and this number, what number are you looking at? Okay, Vince Russo's here, and you guys are down here. I don't go bragging about it. I just say, hey, Vince did his job. He's a good producer. He did his show. And that's it. Yep. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Well, great conversation. I'm sure Vince will get tickled if anyone makes him privy that he became our main event topic today. But that's it, Vito.
Oh, no. We got one more.
Go.
Aaron Rip. Okay? No DQ. Now, when somebody like Virtue says, hey, Vito, want to come on No DQ? It'd be a great time. Yeah, no problem. All right, you guys were kicking a can down the street, getting a couple of beach balls, wearing a couple of beanies, right? Big Vito comes on the scene, skyrockets, business is booming, right? What happens? Big Vito and Aaron and Vito, there was a misunderstanding, not on my part, but Vito leaves, ratings go down. I mean, so down that, we're talking, we don't even got enough money for a Happy Meal at McDonald's, right? So I say, hey, listen, let's get the band, get back together, and let's put the ship back on track, and let's get it going. So somebody made a phone call to Aaron Rip, say, hey, you want to get Vito back on the show? Let's do something. The whole No DQ is waiting, all right? We were talking, 5,000 strong or better?
We were hitting the No DQ review was over 4,000 consistently every week.
Over 4,000 people consistently week after week. And did I get anything? A fruit basket, a gift card for my wife, something from Bed Bath & Beyond? Nothing.
Didn't he send you a shirt? Or was that me?
No, you sent me the shirt. right? I gave it to my wife. He sent me a beach ball, right? And I said, but I live in Pennsylvania. There's no beaches here, right? Thought he was doing me a favor. Didn't even send me a croissant and egg.
Well, we are trying to coordinate to do something because we know you have to record on the weekends. And
So
we have the No DQ review number 100 coming up in about 7 weeks, 6 weeks or whatever. So trust me. And Aaron, you know, I have things that I want to get in the can for him, more great No DQ debates. He is a tough one to schedule stuff with. I don't know if he's just so busy or whatever. So
you know what it is? You know what it is? He fell off the wagon. You know why? Because he's in LOVE. Yes. Okay? Soon as this woman came into his life, the whole riff show went up it's in flames. That's it.
Well, hey, is Ref the Vince McMahon of No DQ? Not one other talent or contributor can be bigger than Aaron Rift? Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, hey, we're sitting here talking, we're shooting the shit here. Let's call it the way we're calling. We're calling you out, Aaron Rift, right? Yeah. And if you want to be a guest on the show to talk about it, you're more than welcome. I know Vince Russo did that. I'm just following suit. But hey, what the hell?
Well, you'll be back on the review. Don't worry. I'll make sure it happens. So with that said, Vito, go ahead and do your plugs and then I'll close the show up. But another great conversation. And like I said, I will make sure everybody on social media gets a link for this video because they're going to hear stuff they don't hear anywhere else. Somebody that actually was backstage and has worked with some of these people that we talk about with the controversy, with the ratings up and down and this and that. And they can always pick your brain too and ask you more information. Like, Vito, how do can you give me more input on this since you were there back in the day, right? So give the world all your information, like your Twitter.
Guys,
so I can do it for you.
Go to the Big Vito brand on Twitter. Go to the Big Vito brand on Facebook. Go to my wife, Noelle, at Spilling the Tea Reality. I always get it wrong. I mess it up. Virtue, take it away, man. I'm not good at the credits.
So, yeah, follow Vito on Twitter at the Big Vito brand. He does have his Facebook. Go to my Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. You can get Noelle's information, No DQ's information, Vito's information. And guess what? There's emails, there's private messages. We'll answer questions if you have them for us. We will talk about your topics on upcoming shows if you want to give us ideas of things you'd like to hear us talk about. So with that said, this has been another great,
Wait a
minute. Yes,
go. I forgot the plug, right? Okay. We forgot the plug that. Does everybody know my new street code, my new street cred name? It's the BIGV from the LOG. We got something up on Twitter, and everybody says, hey, we had a debate last week on, my show with my wife, and Vito, did you really play for the Knicks? I said, yeah. Vito, I looked it up. You never played. I said, I played on 10-day contracts, all right? With far as being a rapper, with me and Biggie Small, shooting the shit, doing our thing in the hood, I don't know. I mean, a rapper, pro basketball player, movie star, all right? The Rock never made no horror movies, all right? Come bring it, son. Come bring it. Here, all right, close the show. I got it.
Well, thank you for that, Vito, but it's been a blast. So make sure you follow me, you follow Vito, and most importantly, go to thebigvitobrand.com. But for Vito LaGrasso, I am Virtue. This has been Getting Color. And you know what? We will be back again next time. So enjoy this show and look forward to ones in the future. See you later.